So my painting process is quite an immersive process, a bit like immersing yourself in the sea. I come into my studio in the evening and I've got to have at least 2 to 3 hours solid painting. I don't stop. So you're completely in the zone, in the flow state as they call it, or you're trying to anyway. So I love working on little paintings, especially when I have a break. I have to start by painting small, and I do multiple things at the same time, so I can have at least 10 or 20 little paintings on the go. And then I work on all of them in the same evening. I put layers on each one and work my way around. And then I start to build up to a bigger painting and a bigger canvas. And I put the bigger ones on the floor, and so it's a more physical process where I'm using squeegees and big flat brushes and not caring about what's going to happen. I can't predict how it's going to turn out. I just have to trust the process and throw myself in and wait and see what happens. And then eventually, sometimes a good painting will come out of it, and other times it doesn't have that magic or that alchemy, and then I just keep painting over it and throwing more paint on and finding my way through it. So it's like a journey, but you don't know where the destination is, but you know you're going to arrive somewhere. And I'm just hoping that the viewer, I can make some sort of connection with the viewer, and they will find something in that, some truth and some authenticity somehow. I grew up in a small town in Scotland, and I was always the sort of quiet one that was drawing and sitting sort of on my own drawing. But as it was a really small town, you didn't get any support as an artist. There wasn't a possibility to even think of becoming an artist, although that's what I loved to do. And so when I left school, I worked for about 10 years, nothing to do with art, sewing, and I just had to have a job and work. And then I suddenly started earning some more money, and I started to travel, and that opened up my eyes, and I met for the first time some actual artists that were making a living as artists, and so I decided to keep drawing, and I started travelling, say, to Africa. I went to Kenya and stayed there for a year, and I started drawing people in the streets and the buildings and the kids in the streets, and that just opened up something new to me again, that I realised that that's what I wanted to do. And by chance I met someone who was studying at St Martin's College in London, and she said, oh, you could go back to college and, you know, do a foundation. And that, again, something opened up to me that I thought, oh, this possibility that I could actually go to art college, what I'd never even thought of before. So came back to London after a year of travelling.
How old were you then?
I was in my late 20s. So I managed to come back to London, and someone else I met said, oh, you can come and share a flat with me. So everything seemed to come together, and within about a month I got onto a foundation course in Waltham Forest. Then I went to East London University and studied there for 3 years, which was fantastic because there's a lot of mature students, and I just sort of threw myself into it. I was there sort of painting till I was thrown out in the evening, and just loved it. In 1999 we emigrated to Vancouver, Canada. And we chose that because there's mountains and sea, and there's islands, and we did a lot of camping and exploring and swimming with my kids, and I just loved that environment. It's like snow-capped mountains. We lived at the bottom of the North Shore Mountains, and we had sort of bears coming through our garden sometimes, and it was just lovely, you know, and it's like 15 minutes away from the sea, so it's very different from the sea here, but it's still very interesting. And I think in Canada I was interested in, you know, the lakes, and especially Lake Louise. There's a lot of glacial lakes there, and they have this intense milky aquamarine colour, which I loved. So that did start coming into my paintings. And within the painting process, I started in Canada being looser, so it became more liquidy, more about sort of the experience of being in water, either lakes or sea. And I remember someone saying it's almost like you could just dip your toe in the water in the painting. So I think it started in Canada, those colours, that attraction to those colours. I did a lot for Vancouver, the art gallery. They had an art rental scheme, which was quite big because there's a lot of filming in Vancouver, and so a lot of my paintings were rented out to film there. I came back to the UK in 2016, and I chose St Ives. So I didn't know anything about St Ives apart from it had the Tate Gallery. There would be artists here. It was an artist community. So you know, I'm really happy that I chose it. I'm so happy here. I've lived here now for 8 years, and I just feel really at home. You know, I have my studio. It's right next to the beach. I live in St Ives, so I can walk up and down to my flat and back to my studio. And I'm here basically every day, and I come here in the evenings to paint as well. So yeah, St Ives has been a great choice for me to live. And I'd been swimming during the summers, but I suddenly thought, I wonder how long I can keep swimming. And then it was October, November, December, and I could still, I thought, oh, I can do this. And I don't have a wetsuit. And so I used to watch the surfers, say in January, December and January, and I think they were completely mad. And I thought, you know, how can they do that? You know, I didn't think it was possible, but now I just feel I've got access to the sea all year, and I just suddenly, it just becomes second nature, and you don't get that shock anymore because you've done it for so long. And as long as you keep going regularly, it's perfectly, you know, natural now to just go in any time of year. I just don't go in when it's really rough because it can be dangerous, and I'm usually on my own. And there are rocks over at Portminster Point that I can clamber over and get into a little cove, and I call it my secret cove, and I can swim there. So I like doing that. And there's just nothing like being on your own in a little cove and just swimming. There's just no other feeling like it. It's just something about having that whole beach to yourself. It's just so exhilarating. Yeah, I think it's really important to do certain things on your own. And recently, like last month, I went up to the Hebrides, and which is somewhere really close to my heart. I just love the islands up there. And I did that trip about 30 years ago, before I had kids. And I just, you know, I wanted to retrace my steps and go over that again, like on my own as an adult, and swim in every beach that I could find. So that was a fantastic experience, and I was camping for a week, and I was camping on my own, and there's, like you say, there is something so special about just doing something. It gives you that feeling of self-confidence and empowerment that, you know, I can do this, you know, because it's like a 2,000-mile drive. There's a lot of connections to St Ives with, you know, it's a similar colours, the colour of the sea, the white sandy beaches, but there's more of a sense of isolation there, and yeah, I just love it up there, and the people. Fantastic. You know, everyone's amazed that I do so many layers of gesso, like 5, 6 layers of gesso, and then 5 or 6 layers of just white paint, and that gives me a solid painting base. Like, I don't want to feel the canvas or the paper that's underneath, and that gives me this lovely surface that the paint can glide over the top, so it doesn't sink into it and make it dull. It's all sitting on the top. And I do use acrylic paint, and I've been using that for about 30 years as well. And I love the way that the freedom of it, that I can just build up tons of layers on multiple canvases, and I can just keep painting it. And I'm not waiting for things to dry. And there's so many lovely mediums you can use with paint, with acrylic paint. I use a lot of gold and satin medium, and it gives it a nice soft sort of glow, and it makes it spread and more liquidy and more transparent. I like to use a lot of transparent colours, and that gives sort of depth and that sort of sense of being fluid.